Welcome to MasterMind Minutes, the leading podcast for franchisors, franchisees, and entrepreneurs of all types. We have one guest, we ask one question, and we get one expert answer, and we do it in minutes, not hours. Good morning again, and welcome to another edition of MasterMind Minutes. My name is Gary Occhigrosso, and I am the founder and managing partner for Franchise Growth Solutions. We are the premier franchise development and franchise sales organization here in the United States. I'm also the publisher of franchisemoneymaker.com. And for those of you new to the program, MasterMind Minutes is a relatively simple concept. We have one guest. We ask one question or have one topic, and we get one expert answer. And as the name implies, we do it in minutes, not hours. So it's a perfect thing to listen to while you're on the treadmill in the morning. Today, our guest is Aaron Noveshen. And Aaron is the founder and CEO of Starbird, a fast food concept featuring crispy chicken, tenders, salads, sandwiches. We'll let him talk about all the great things that they have on their menu. They opened to critical acclaim with the Breakout Brand Award from NRN, Nation's Restaurant News, for those of you not necessarily in the restaurant business, and they currently operate 12 locations in California. Aaron also founded the Culinary Edge, which is a food and beverage innovation firm to help companies with actionable, strategic, culinary, and operational solutions. He is also the co-founder of Pacific Catch, the co-founder of World Wraps, the Director Emeritus of the California Restaurant Associated, and the former chairman of the board, of the California Restaurant Association Foundation. So lots of stuff going on with you, Aaron. Tell you what, before we get into the question, because there's a lot I probably left out, why don't you fill us in a little bit more about your background, and then sort of bring us up to date with what's going on with Starbird, because it sounds pretty exciting.
Sure thing, Gary. Thanks for having me on today. A little bit about me. I, from California originally, grew up in Los Angeles, but have lived most of my life in the San Francisco Bay Area. I was a fine dining chef for several years, and also combined that with getting a business degree from the Haas School of Business at UC Berkeley here in Northern Cal. So I've been a consummate entrepreneur for a good 25 plus years and have started or co-founded several brands, as you mentioned. And for the last 21 years, I've operated the food and beverage innovation agency, the Culinary Edge, which is based in San Francisco. The Culinary Edge has worked with over 200 brands in the 20 years we've been in business, including manufacturers, restaurant companies, hospitality. And about 7 years ago, instead of just being in the consultancy type of business, we decided, hey, it's time to create our own brand, sort of, as they say, walk the talk. Mm-hmm. We had helped a lot of companies over the years, literally 30% of the top 200 restaurant companies, 7 of the top 10 global restaurant brands have all been clients of the Culinary Edge over the years. Mm-hmm. And the team was kind of chomping at the bit, like, we can do this. And I had started restaurant companies before. And so we wanted to enfranchise our team at the Culinary Edge and really create the greatest new super premium fast food concept, which has become Starbird. We launched in 2016 in Silicon Valley, and Starbird really combines the best of culinary quality. Obviously, we're a chef-driven company, seamless operations for easy scale, great design. You can see one of our restaurants behind me here. This is Corte Madera, California in Marin County, and also a deep involvement in the community. And so Starbird launched 2016, as you mentioned, 12 restaurants. And just this past few months, we've started franchising. So we're really excited to meet multi-unit franchise operators who are interested in learning about our positively delicious chicken.
Well, that's some great backstory there, and yeah, I love the design of what I'm seeing there, and we'll talk offline about some other things regarding your expansion. Before I ask you the question, though, I have to ask you about the logo. Tell me what's behind the logo. It's very interesting to me.
Yeah, our logo is really about, the chicken and the egg. So if you can see the chicken head and the egg on the bottom, it's really sort of a birth of the chicken. growth. We're all about positivity. So the egg is also a smile, as you can see. And, we worked with Stroll Design, a group here out of San Francisco, to help us with our design. And they're a great team, and have been great support for Starbird, not only developing this logo, but several other of our virtual brand logos along the way.
Yeah, no, it looks great. I got the chicken and I got the smile. I didn't connect it with an egg, but yeah, I get it. So it's it's got a lot of different impression there. So let's get into our question, because again, your background in developing restaurant concepts, which myself, I've done a few of them, and they can be rewarding, aggravating. You pray over them, you love them, you hate them sometimes. The drill is like endless. But in creating, and you use the term super premium, which I really like that term. But what are some of the key considerations in creating a successful and yet an innovative menu or a menu item so that it resonates with today's consumer? What are those things that you take into consideration?
Sure, a great question. So when we think about menu innovation, first and foremost, we think about our customers and our customer need states. And that could be anything from, are they on the go? Are products being delivered? Are they thinking about health and wellness? Are they thinking about something indulgent and delicious? And also, what is their interest, right? And so we try and understand as much about our consumer preferences as possible as a starting point. Mm-hmm. Then we think about, what do we want to develop? What are the gaps either in our menu today or the opportunity spaces we see in the marketplace? And so we're constantly evaluating trends that are happening. And, trends are not just, oh, this is a flavor profile and we should jump on the bandwagon. Sometimes it's social movements, and it's, what's happening with immigration patterns and what's happening in fine dining and things of that nature. And we try and understand sort of the crossroads of our customer needs and the needs of the trends, let's say, whether it be a menu category or a flavor profile or what's happening seasonal, and come up with lots of ideas. At the Culinary Edge, we do a lot of food touring. We call them food safaris, where we'll take clients and we'll go visit a city and we'll fully immerse in, let's say, we want to explore wings, right? What's going on with wings and all the different ways that you can serve wings, size, flavor profile, topical applications, packaging, all these things that really come into play. And we sort of take a design thinking approach of experiencing what the guest experiences while eating this product under different circumstances. We also consider seasonality is really important. We've had tremendous success with salads, for example, in their summer season. Salads have actually grown to be the number one category at Starbird. And, most people say, wow, you're a sandwich place, you're a chicken sandwich place. And at Starbird, we say, no, we're actually a chicken place. And it's one of the things that really differentiates us, that we're not just a sandwich place competing with a sea of highly value and discounted products, along with some premium products. Yeah. So we think about seasonality. We think about what category is most relevant. We did a big launch, as I mentioned, wing development during the fall. You've got, football season coming on, and really be able to play up to the seasonality, not just of where the sun and moon are, but what's going on seasonally with a big portion of our guests.
Yeah. Well, I guess, I want to unpack some of the things you said there, because I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, at least 6 things that I managed to write down. But before we do that, I just want to say I completely connect to what you've said as it relates to innovation and new. I guess now probably 20, 25 years ago, I launched a franchise brand in New York with the founders called Ranch One, and it was a grilled chicken.
Sure.
was a grilled chicken concept, and no
Know
one
it
was
well.
really doing that. But the interesting thing is that we were using things like semolina rolls and an herb dressing and radicchio, and it was really innovative, and people loved it. But it was very challenging to get people, like you say, people say, "Oh, you're a chicken place," or you're a chicken sandwich place, and you go, "No, no, no, it's really difficult to get the public sometimes over the hump of what they just assume the brand is about." And I'd like to just again know maybe a little bit more, like, what is I'll use the word education for the lack of a better word, but what's the education process so that your guests and your soon to be guests understand sort of the entire dynamic of Starbird?
Sure. Great thought. I'm a big believer that it's difficult to educate guests. It
Yeah.
has to be a seamless thing that just sort of appears, right? And
Yep.
we do it in a combination of ways. And so at Starbird, we've leaned very heavily into technology and digital interface. And a substantial majority of all orders at Starbird are placed digitally. We call it an omni-channel approach. Literally 80% of all transactions happen digitally at Starbird. And
Wow.
those are either through our app, our mobile web, the web. We've got digital catering ordering capabilities. Certainly our third-party partners, you can order digitally through those channels, and also through our kiosks, which we have in the restaurant. So in these visual digital environments, we're able to show the guests our categories. So we've got really dramatic pictures of all the categories of foods, almost like picnic style spreads digitally that you'll
Oh,
see.
very
So
cool.
people get an understanding. And then depending on what we're promoting, we've got live video streaming going on in our kiosk or on our website. And we're able to literally use all this multidimensional things on the digital approach. When you walk into our restaurant, it's pretty clear. First of all, very transparent kitchen, open kitchen. You see what's being made every day. We also have digital monitors that show production of food and give different cues to the different categories that we have. There's POP, point of purchase, marketing materials on our walls that are photography based and with clear statements. Right now we've just done a relaunch on our sandwiches, for example. And we really said, the sea of sandwiches are out there. How are we going to stand out and be different? And we spent 8 months investigating, what really makes a best-in-class sandwich. We came out 7 years ago with our approach, and we learned there were certain things that were a hypothesis that people really loved, and there were other things that we weren't getting credit for. So we said, how do we double down on the things that matter to our guests, stop doing the things that we're not getting credit for, and create a new wow factor?
Mhm.
And so we've got these incredible, you can go to starbirdchicken.com and you can see our new sandwich launch. We've got this great packaging that replicates. It's got kind of the curve of the smile in a stand-up container with our bird on it. The chicken's literally bursting out of the top of the bun. Just really, really dramatic approach to evolving our sandwiches.
Yeah, I love everything you've said there, because again, to tie it to the initial topic here about the considerations, I would imagine then that since you're doing a lot of digital ordering, is a good, what percentage would you say is food that's either being delivered third party or picked up and eaten off premise?
Yeah, we're over 75% off premise.
Yeah.
When we first I was gonna say, when we first started Starbird, we had intended to be 50% lunch, 50% dinner, 50% on premise, 50% off. Over time, and obviously the pandemic played a part in it, the ability for consumers to really frictionlessly take food off premise separated us from the pack. We were way ahead of the curve from most brands when it came to digital interface, and actually not even needing drive-throughs. So you can see this restaurant in the picture behind me. This is in a sort of a lifestyle center in Marin County. We have a tremendous 60-foot of frontage on a restaurant, which is almost unheard of. I've been eyeing this site for many, many years, and finally we were able to get it. And my watch is talking to me here. We're able to get really a dominant way to get off premise, all without drive-throughs. And why that's important is as we grow and as we franchise, the cost of investment and the competition for the land that you need today for drive-throughs is really difficult. And we
Yeah.
can literally fit a Starbird into 1,700, 1,800 square feet. And we're doing sales of upwards of $1,700 to $2,000 a foot in that type of environment.
Yeah, yeah. And I can tell you, I mean, San Francisco is an expensive market. New York's an expensive market. First of all, even if you could find dirt, would the unit economics work once you actually pay for the dirt and build a building? That's a whole nother discussion. But I love what you said, because, you know, it's interesting. People, and I've had some folks on, and I know a lot of folks who operate, you know, more what I would call typical fast food joints, not maybe fast casual, you know, and the drive-through, and the idea of, and I would connect it to what you're saying, and we used to use it as a consideration, and I want to tie it into the question of consideration, was how well does the food travel? So when you're in a drive-through scenario, very often that stuff's eaten in the car, like, I don't know, you know, you always got your hand in the bag of something on the way home. But if that's not the case, if they're picking it up and then they're driving somewhere, do you consider, when you're coming up with a menu item, hey, how is this going to travel? Like when the guest gets it home or when they get it back to their office, is the chicken going to be crispy? Is it going to really present the brand standard that we've worked so hard to get? Is traveling food a consideration when you're creating a menu item?
Absolutely, without question. We taste every single menu item fresh, right? You know, literally assembled to order. We tested it 15 minutes and we tasted it 30 minutes. So basically, we understand everything that's happening, because a lot of what happens, we're very focused on our sauces. In particular, we have 9 different sauces that we make from scratch. And you know, being French trained as a chef, you know, they always say it's in the sauce. It's one of the huge differentiators for us, our scratch made sauces.
It's all about the sauce.
And so one of the things that we've noticed is, you know, how the sauce absorbs into the bread or into things, and how, you know, like what are the right levels. And so you have to try those things at every stage in which the food is going to be eaten. You know, in packaging, if you've got something enclosed, there can be steam generated. Fortunately, our chicken is incredibly crispy. I mean, you can take our chicken tenders, put them in the fridge overnight, pull them out in the morning, and it's still got crispiness. And what creates that is we actually don't use any wheat flour. There's no gluten-based flour in our breading and batter system.
Really? Wow.
And it's a combination of rice flour and several other flours that have very light and have a very crispy texture. And they also don't absorb tons and tons of oil. We cook only in rice bran oil, which is a much lighter fry. So at the Culinary Edge, when we created Starbird, we set out to say, how do we make the very best crispy chicken? Like literally, that was our mantra. And it took us probably about 6 months. We tried over 100 different combinations of recipes, whether it was our brine recipe or our, what we call our first dredge, and then our wet batter and our final dredge, and all different combinations of that. And when we realized what we loved the most, afterwards, we were looking at the nutritional statement and we realized, wow, this actually is gluten-free. And we didn't ever intend to be a gluten-free restaurant, but it turned out to be, and we're not fully gluten-free as an entire restaurant, but our core products, our salads, our tender boxes, et cetera, all fully gluten-free. And for folks who are looking for that type of dining experience, and there are a lot of them, particularly out here in the West Coast, for nutritional reasons or just how they want to eat or how they feel good, turned out to be a benefit. We don't plaster it on our headline. It's one of those sort of, oh, by the way.
Yeah, no, I think that's terrific. I mean, I you know, just to talk about franchising for a minute, because I'm a restaurant guy, but I'm a franchise guy is probably my core. And it's interesting because sometimes when prospective franchisees ask me, well, you know, what do I get for my royalty, or why should I pay fees and all this other good stuff, which is a common question that potential franchisees ask. What they don't necessarily know is the things you just talked about, that you spent years and hundreds of recipes and figuring it out. And I'm sure sticking your hand in a fryer to look at something, you probably have like no more. I used to be Dunkin' Donuts franchisee when we made donuts in the place. So I have like no feel. These are the things that I believe really cut to the core. Yes, we could talk about branding and we could talk about marketing, but when you create the product as the franchisor, the franchisee really benefits from sort of your bloody nose. I don't know how else a better way of putting it, but you went through that aggravation and that pain to get where you are. Talk to me just for a minute about, that's never a one and done in my book. Is that something that you're always doing?
Absolutely. Because we're backed by the Culinary Edge and the team at the Culinary Edge, we are an innovation based concept, right? My close friend, partner, mentor, Greg Dollarhide, who was the CEO of Baja Fresh and sold it to Wendy's, and was the CEO of Zoe's and took them public. He's been an investor every round since day one. And he says one of the main reasons that he was interested in being a part of Starbird was he knew that we're never going to get stale. We're always understanding the marketplace, the team behind it will always be able to evolve. And there's plenty of franchises out there that've got one thing that may be relevant today, and it may not be relevant tomorrow.
Absolutely.
For example, there's a chicken concept that's doing fantastic, amazing brand, amazing people behind it. They also serve a singular product, right? And I was a partner and someone who founded World Wraps many years ago, and a brilliant guy by the name of Malcolm Naff said one day, wraps, it's difficult to be a concept, but it will be a great menu item. And that, that resonated with me, and that was over 20 years ago. And I said, well, if we're going to create a chicken concept, it's not going to be based on a singular product. It's going to be something that's timeless, right? And we've even added, we didn't start with wings, for example, and now we've got wings. We used to have tacos, a taco category in the menu. We've removed it over time. Like, we've learned the relevancy. The juice isn't worth the squeeze, and the consumer tastes as it relates to that are not growing. So we're always paying attention to those things. We'll always evolve in a meaningful way. And we're always striving to be the best of the best. We're not going to rest and say, this is how we do sandwiches. You can think about it, even McDonald's. We heard the other day, they're improving one of their core products. It was the quarter pounder. They've reinvented it because they said, wait a second, we can make this better. And so we have the mindset, I think, much more so than they do in some ways, to just say this constant striving for excellence.
Yeah, I agree. And I did read that the other day about McDonald's, and I would tell you that there's so much relevancy in what you said, because it's the balance between being that, do you really want to sell one thing and one thing only? Well, I'm not sure about the longevity of that, and ebb and flow. You mentioned things like seasonality and social positions and population changes. But on the other hand, you don't want to go down that road that, quite honestly, McDonald's went down in the 90s, where they extended their menu into things that people, they don't even advertise their salads anymore, because, quite honestly, you don't go there for a salad, you go there for a burger. So the idea that you can sort of, have this maybe stretched concept where you're about chicken, but that means, okay, how can we cross-utilize chicken in a lot of different ways, whether it's in a sandwich or in a box or in a bowl or in a salad, so that you can do the thing that you do better than anyone else. Let's say chicken, you can extend your menu to the extent where people understand it. Nobody's walking in there going, why are these guys selling ice cream or whatever? I think that is key in any brand positioning. We go through endless conversations. We deal primarily with startups and emerging brands. So we have endless hours of conversations as to why you shouldn't have 50 things on your menu. Let's sell the top 20 within a category that we can get you known for. And I think that's brilliant. One of the things that I wanted to ask you about in sort of the initial question here, and you had gone through, and I said I had written down like 6 or 7 of them. You mentioned things like when you're considering, and that's the question, just for those of you who just joined us, it's what are some of the key considerations in creating successful and innovative menu items that will resonate with customers? And we're talking with Aaron Noveshen, who is the founder of Starbird. And you mentioned things like lifestyle and social considerations and population bases. What are some of those things that you take into consideration when you're looking at that menu as it relates to lifestyle and social considerations?
Sure. I think we think about, as I mentioned with the salad example, in summertime, people want to be eating lighter. As it goes into football season, people are eating wings and they're celebrating and joining it. And then back to school, we did these amazing family meal things, which are, for 4 people, if you got a couple of small kids, or 2 people who want like a large meal. So we're just thinking about what's happening in people's lives, what's happening at a time of year. And then there even is the seasonality thing that pays tribute to what's growing. Our beverage program, for example, we make house-made lemonade from scratch in-house every day. We brew iced tea every day from scratch. We also have seasonal lemonades and seasonal iced teas that are always a fruit of the season. So, we just launched a summer peach iced tea, and we've got a strawberry lemonade that we're launching right now that's been a fan favorite. We had to bring it back. People were going nuts that we didn't have it. And those are 2 things. And those are not, artificial things. These are things with real fruit in them that are incredibly delicious. And they're things that differentiate the experience and also send the cues to the guests. Like these are not your average fountain drinks.
Yeah. And 2 things I just want to sort of tag on that, just for anyone listening to the program that's thinking of maybe starting a restaurant or franchising their restaurant. I think there's a couple of key things you said there. One is the idea that in the quick service business, where unlike fine dining, where you're building a ticket, you sell a drink, you sell an appetizer, another drink, an entree, a drink, a dessert, whatever, you're building the ticket. In the fast casual business, it's all about frequency of visit and what we call occasions to use. So if you're tying the brand, the product, into someone's lifestyle or sort of just their habit, their radar, like how they run their life, and now you're creating seasonal items or the items that you described, now you're creating occasions for people to come in and use the restaurant perhaps more than they would. Because you've got something special, you've got something new, you've got something innovative. You mentioned about your lemonade, and I often think about the Starbucks, the pumpkin spice latte, which I think used to come out in October. Now it comes out in August.
I think it's February, actually, now they launch.
Yeah. So that's very key, in terms of keeping a restaurant fresh and keeping people coming in and always wanting to say, hey, what's Starbird got coming out that's new? Like they already trust the brand. So now when you roll out something new, they already trust you. They're going to try it. So you just got one job: bring out new and innovative products that are going to tie into your customer base and attract new customers. I love it. Let me just ask you for like one final thought, because we're really running long here, but I could tell you, I could talk with you for like all day about this stuff. Just a final thought, and then we'll ask you to tell us, if people want to get in touch with you, how they do that.
I think the final thought is, and this is something that happens in the innovation world, I've been thinking a lot about what works and what doesn't. And we have a thing called a couple statements. One is don't breathe your own exhaust, and don't believe that everything you say is fact. And another one is kill your darlings, because to come up with new and innovative ideas, you have to create a lot of ideas, and sometimes you can get so behind them and think they're so right. And we consumer test, very rapid test all of our conceptual ideas for new menu items. And it's amazing that your guests will pretty clearly direct you as to what they're interested in. And if you can do that over a long period of time, you can benchmark the success of future items. And you've got to like really build a multi-year pipeline of things, and the feedback for benchmarking whether something's going to be successful or not. They do correlate very, very well. And then, if you want to get in touch with us, info@starbirdchicken.com. That's starbirdchicken.com, info@. And if you're interested in talking to the folks at the Culinary Edge, Aaron, Aaron, just like on the screen, or Aaron, as Key and Peele would call me, at theculinaryedge.com.
Yeah, and we'll put all of that in the bio, in the text of the podcast. Aaron, I've enjoyed this immensely. I basically built my career being sort of at the bottom of the hill, like where things start. Once they get going, then okay, so it's time to do something different. And I think you're cut from the same cloth, quite honestly. But I thank you for being with us today, again, and sharing your insights for people who are listening, thinking about, either starting a restaurant or creating a brand, or people interested in perhaps contacting Aaron because they're interested in opening up a Starbird. Again, I thank you so much for your time today. Truly appreciate it.
Appreciate it, Gary. Great speaking with you today.
Great.